So welcome to Lyme Disease UK's latest seminar, and we have the pleasure of, we've had the pleasure of inviting Olivia Goodreau today, and we're going to hear all about her LivLyme Foundation. Before we start, first of all, we'd like to welcome Olivia and thank you for giving up your time on a Sunday morning. We know that you're in snowy Colorado, and it's been pretty wet here in the UK for a few weeks, so we're all hoping for spring to come. So thank you for agreeing to collaborate with Lyme Disease UK for this seminar. So I'm just going to give a little intro about you. Everybody's got the longer intro on their meeting invite, but just to set us off, Olivia is the founder of LivLyme Foundation, a non-profit that provides financial assistance to children and their families struggling with Lyme and other tick-borne diseases, while also supporting the work of researchers and scientists who are dedicated to finding effective treatments and cures for tick-borne diseases. Olivia is also the inventor of the free global tick tracker app, the Tickmojis app, I can't say that, it wouldn't come out properly, and recently launched her latest free app, Longhaul Tracker. Olivia founded the LivLyme Foundation in 2017 when she was just 12 years old, pretty impressive, to raise money for children who could not afford or who cannot afford that Lyme treatment, to fund research to find a cure for Lyme and other tick-borne diseases, and to educate the world about ticks. That is a pretty amazing intro, Olivia. So just before I hand over to you, just to tell everybody who's listening that this session is being recorded, and everybody who's registered will get a copy of the recording after the event, so no need to sit and try and take notes or anything. And everybody who's joined will notice that their videos and microphones are switched off. This is so that Olivia doesn't get distracted when she's talking, and if you could stick with that and keep them off, that would be really great. We do have a moderator in the background who will switch things off if they accidentally get switched back on. And if you have any problems, any worries, pop a question in the chat box, and Natasha will try and sort them out for you. At the end of Olivia's presentation, we'll take some questions from the chat box. And so I'm sure you'll all have loads of questions. So I'm going to hand over to you, Olivia, if you'd like to share your screen. And then once your screen's up, I'll mute myself and stop my video. But anytime you want me back, Olivia, just shout and I'll pop back.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction, and I would like to thank Lyme UK for inviting me here today. I believe that it is the afternoon for you guys, so good afternoon. It's the morning here in Colorado. My name is Olivia Goodreau, and I am the founder of the LivLyme Foundation and creator of Tick Tracker, the Longhaul Tracker, and the Tickmojis app. First, I would like to start off with my story. As you can see, this was me when I was about 6 or 7 years old. I was a relatively happy, active, energetic kid. I wasn't afraid of, hooking worms onto fishing lines and, catching fish and jumping in the lake. And I was overall a very just bouncy, lively kid. I was bitten by a tick at the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, and during that time in the Ozarks, I did not have any major symptoms. It wasn't until I got back to Colorado that I started feeling very off. And so this is a picture of me when I was super sick in the 2nd grade, and I started having flu-like symptoms. I was having body aches, brain fog, I was having tremors in my right hand. I couldn't physically hold up my head. I was in and out of school. I was in and out of doctor's offices. And I saw 51 doctors over the course of 18 months before I was diagnosed with just Lyme disease. And the 51st doctor actually was the first woman doctor that I saw. And she had seen similar symptoms in a past patient and decided to do a random Lyme disease test. And because of that random connection that she saw, that was how I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And I was 9 years old when I was diagnosed. So again, this is me in the hospital. I had multiple tests. I had CAT scans, EKGs, MRIs, upper and lower endoscopies, spinal taps, copper tests, more or less anything you could give an 8-year-old at that point. I had over thousands of blood draws, and I missed a ton of school to get all these tests done. And I lost track of the doctors that I saw. Most of the time, these doctors would come in, they would read my file, they would maybe ask my mom a question, and then they would leave. So they never really asked me any questions. And so their faces to me are just blurs. I don't remember really any of them until my last doctor. And it felt absolutely terrible being, left out of your own health and your own diagnosis. I was misdiagnosed with Wilson's disease, which, if you guys know what that is, it is a very terrible illness to where you do not live that long. So at 8 years old, I was being told that I would not live as long as the other kids in my class would. And then when that DNA test came back negative, the doctors were asking if I was making it up for attention. And to feel as horrible as I did, and then be asked, oh, are you not as loved as your brothers are? Do your parents like your brothers more than they like you? To be asked those questions was very hurtful, and I felt very betrayed by the healthcare system. So 3 years later, and seeing 4 more doctors, I was also diagnosed with Bartonella, Babesia, Pot syndrome, relapsing fever, and an anti-1 trypsin deficiency in my liver. And when I was diagnosed with all of those illnesses, which I was diagnosed by Dr. Horowitz, who has saved my life, and I will talk more about him later, I was feeling very sad. I was, super bummed that I couldn't play soccer like the other kids could. I couldn't, do homework. I couldn't play at recess. I just felt very left out. And so I decided to go on my mom's Facebook page and look up other patients and other stories of people with Lyme disease. And I came across a story about a mom and her son, and they were living in their car so they could afford the boy's Lyme disease medication. And that story really stuck with me. And I realized that I could either sit here and be mopey and wait for somebody else to do something, or I could be the one to kind of start that change and make that spark and actually do something. And so in January of 2017, I created the LivLyme Foundation. And the reason why it is called the LivLyme Foundation is because my name is Olivia. My friends call me Liv, and I am living with Lyme disease. And right off the bat, the moment we had our website up, 15 minutes later, we had not only our first donation, but our first grandchild application. And the goal of the LivLyme Foundation is to provide funding for kids that cannot afford their Lyme disease medication, but it's also there to provide funding for scientists and research institutions to find better treatments and potential cures. Since I want to be cured, I want to have a normal childhood and normal life, and I'm sure that, everybody else with a tick-borne illness wants that too. And so to date, we have given over 50 LivLyme grants from kids ages 2 to 21. And we have given grants to scientists at Stanford University, Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, and University of New Haven. And so this photo right here is all the grant kids that we have given to. And I personally read each application. I have read over 900 applications in the last 6 years. And it is my favorite job and my least favorite job, because I get to really connect with these recipients, and I get to connect with everybody who submits an application. But by the end of the process, I am a bawling mess. And so I get to choose who I believe most needs a LivLyme grant, and then I get to call the recipients' families and hopefully talk to the recipient themselves if they're feeling well enough. This is my dog Mo, and you guys might be wondering why I have him in my Lyme disease presentation. Well, I was back at the Lake of the Ozarks, and we had let him outside to, do his business. We were watching some kind of movie. It was late at night, and he comes back and he is itching himself and biting himself all over. And just having dealt with this whole Lyme disease diagnosis. And now with the LivLyme Foundation, I immediately picked up on the signs, and I got out my little magnifying glass and I got out my little tweezers, and we looked and we saw over 200 poppy seed ticks all up and down his legs. So as you guys can see, those little dots there that look like freckles, those are all ticks, and they were everywhere. And while everybody was freaking out, including myself, I had the idea to ask my mom, hey, do you know what kind of ticks these are? And maybe we could find a website or a place to where they can tell us what kind of ticks these are, especially in our area. Are they brown dog ticks? Are they Lone Star ticks? What are we looking at? And it was not the best time to ask her, since she was freaking out and screaming about having ticks in our house and infesting our house with ticks. But by the time everything was finished and we got it all under control, the next morning we did our research, and there was no accurate and up-to-date way to see what ticks were in your area. So I had the idea to create Tick Tracker. Tick Tracker is a free global app in multiple languages that lets users see what ticks are in their area in real time using geolocation. And we have gotten data from the CDC, the NIH, HHS, public and private companies, universities, and the Smithsonian, and more or less anybody who has tick data and who would like to give it to us. And so as you can see right here, these are just a few snapshots of the many uses of Tick Tracker. So we have heat maps, which is a great visual way to kind of see what risk index you're in. And you can also click any time or any period to see what ticks were in that area at that time, which is that middle photo right there. So March 18th, and you can see how many ticks were reported at that time. And we also allow notifications. So if you are a very outdoorsy person and you have an Apple Watch, or you're simply carrying your phone with you, and let's say that you're doing a hike in the woods, Tick Tracker will let you know if you are in a high risk area. That way you can stay safe out there. So again, our motivation and our motto was to think global and act local. And so as you can see, we have a few members all the way from Texas A&M to Australia to I can't even pronounce that, to Uganda, to Kenya, to Iraq. So we really have it everywhere. We even have a Pakistani goat farmer who loves our app. That way he can track the ticks on his goats. And every single pinpoint, every single data point that you see on the app, those are all people who have tracked that tick. And so it's really great to see all these people from around the world come together to provide one giant bank of tick data. Another feature that we have on Tick Tracker is we allow the users to take a picture of their tick that they see, whether it's on them or it's on the ground. And these are some of the photos that we've gotten so far. Yes, they're all really disgusting. And as of now, you cannot see the photos if you are not the user who took the picture. And this is just because we need to really hunker down and hone in on making sure that those pictures are ticks and they're not ants, they're not spiders, and there obviously have to be PG content. And so we are working with Microsoft right now to develop an AI that can scan the tick in the picture and tell you what type of tick it is, just from that one photo. Here is some of our data from 2019 to 2013. As you can see, May is Lyme Disease Awareness Month for a reason, as that is the highest number of reports. But you can also see that ticks and tick reporting never truly goes away. Even from January and December and in those snowy winter months, ticks do not die, they actually hibernate. And if you're playing in the snow and you know that this is a tick-infested area in the summer, you could possibly be waking up those ticks. And so it is very crucial to understand that ticks and tick prevalence is not just a spring-summer thing. It happens in the fall with leaf piles, and it can happen in the winter as well. Again, here's some more data. A lot of times people say no to getting tested, treatments, and protection. And so we're hoping that with the continued usage and progression of Tick Tracker and tick awareness, we will get a lot more blue in the future. So since Tick Tracker was such a huge success, I was invited to present at the HHS Opportunity Project, also known as TOP. And TOP is a 14-week tech sprint to see what technologies are out there solving world problems. And I was about, I'm going to say 13, maybe 14 years old when I did this. And Tick Tracker actually won. And so we beat out Oracle and IBM, which I was incredibly shocked by, since in that room, I was the only one who was under 18 and I was the only one who did not have a PhD. And I was super stoked that Tick Tracker was able to win, and I was able to present at the White House and the US Census Bureau. So as Tick Tracker is progressing and growing, we started to gain more momentum, and we started seeing that there were people all around the United States and the world, for that matter, who were very interested in Lyme disease. And some of them that you would not originally guess, like, for example, Jay Leno or Daryl Hall, or a bunch of other celebrities and government officials who all had connections to tick-borne illnesses. And so once again, momentum kept on building and building, whether that was in person or whether it was on social media. And I was able to present for the Center for Lyme Action, which was incredible. And I'm so thankful that I was able to do that, since once again, I was providing more awareness for people. And I was also able to pass the Kay Hagan Tick Act with Senator Susan Collins, which allows more funding for tick-borne disease research and for Lyme disease research. Once again, it takes a community to do all of this, and no one person or no one group can do it alone, really. And this is just a small snapshot of all of the people who have been able to help us and to really help provide awareness for tick-borne diseases. And I believe that if I were to write down every single person that the LivLyme Foundation and Tick Tracker have been involved with, and who we have helped and who they have helped us, it would take multiple slides to get through everybody. And so back to Tick Tracker and tracking evolution, we had the idea to create awareness around, the prevalence of ticks. And as the app grew, we kind of realized that a lot of people were asking more about Lyme disease and tick-borne illnesses as well. They were saying, hey, this is great. Is there any way to track my symptoms? And so originally we were deciding on a tick-borne disease tracker, and we were thinking, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great for all the Lyme literate doctors out there and for all the scientists and studies. And we were really, excited about this. And then COVID happened and everything was shut down. We weren't able to travel. We weren't able to present anywhere. We were getting used to Zoom and virtual meetings like this one. And we were really, just frozen in time. And then we started finding out about COVID long haulers and all of their similar symptoms with Lyme disease and tick-borne illnesses. And finally, we started to see a link not only, with our own eyes, but in news outlets and in other studies, and just around the world, people were realizing how similar the two illnesses were. And so we decided to combine our efforts with both the disease tracking and with all of the public health officials that we knew, and we created the Longhaul Tracker. And the Longhaul Tracker's goal is to provide users with the ability to track any range of symptoms from any disease and make it super simple for them to send it to their healthcare providers, family members, and even send it to studies that they can sign up for. And so again, you can see in these little snapshots here, we make it super easy for the user to click the part on their body that is hurting or that is being affected, click a symptom, make their own custom symptoms. And then in the third photo, you can see that there is a graph, and that way the users can actually see their progress. Since personally, I can tell you right now, I really wish that this app was around when I was at my worst. That way I could see how good I am now. And it would also be so much easier if I could tell my doctor, hey, I was feeling these range of symptoms this day 2 months ago, and now it's a lot better, instead of when they ask, oh, well, how are you feeling last week? Oh, I was feeling okay. I wasn't feeling that great. And I just can't really elaborate on it like I could with a graph or with a tracking app. And so with these two apps, and again, with Tickmojis, which I'll briefly talk about that, but Tickmojis was an idea created by my friend, retired Colonel Nicole Malachowski, and she was the first female Thunderbird pilot. And she was absolutely incredible, just such a powerhouse. If you guys know who Captain Marvel is from the movies and from the comics, she's just like her. She is the real life embodiment of her. She was medically retired due to Lyme disease. So the United States spent millions of dollars on her education, on her equipment, on her training, all for a tick bite to ruin it and put all of that money down the drain. And so she had the idea to create this range of emojis that are ticks and Lyme sphere kits and Lyme disease awareness badges. And she said, you know what, like, people can use this on social media posts, and that way you can really provide more awareness, and it's fun, it's small, it's little, it's not something that's big, and it's not something that's going to cost a ton of money to, you know, put on your social media post or send a text to. And we had the CDC review our little ticks emojis, and they were super nitpicky about it. They were like, oh my gosh, you know, the hairs on this Lone Star tick are not like brown, they have to be like black. And we finally had to tell them, you know, this is going to be a tiny little pixel that they're probably not going to see the hairs at all. But they were super happy and stoked about it too, since all the entomologists were, you know, finally like able to, you know, share all of their findings with ticks and their appearances. And so this is just a small part of my story, and this is just a very summarized view. And so if you're very interested in what else LivLyme, Tick Tracker, and now the Longhaul Tracker and I have accomplished, I have decided to write a memoir called But She Looks Fine, and it will be released May 9th of this year. And I'm actually doing a book tour, and I will actually be out at the UK June 9th and 10th. I don't know where yet, but I know that I will be there. And so I really hope that I'm able to see all of you guys there. And so this provides a little bit more of some depth into my story and how I dealt with tick-borne illnesses as a kid in school, you know, getting into high school, and now, you know, being fine. And one thing, unfortunately, that the book does not talk about, because it was so recent, was I did the quadruple dapsone study. I did that treatment, and I did that in January, and Dr. Horowitz told me, he was like, you know, if you do this and if all goes well, you could go into remission. And so it was an 8-week treatment of 42 pills a day, which was really rough. And then the last 6 days, I was on 400 milligrams of dapsone, which is a 100-year-old leprosy drug, which I would recommend doing the research for. There has been studies proven that it gets rid of Lyme disease. And I recently did that. I think I ended maybe early March, and I am in remission. My doctor says that I am in remission, which is absolutely incredible. And this is the closest thing so far to a cure. And you know, my doctor always asked me, out of 100% being fine, where are you right now? And at first, you know, I was terrible. I was in the 30s. Then I was in the 60s when I was taking 86 pills a day at 12 years old. And now, being no pills a day after taking this treatment, I am now at a 94%. And I am super stoked, and I would not recommend this treatment more, because it just really saved my life. After 11 years of having all these illnesses and feeling terrible, I finally feel like a normal kid. Well, now young adult, since I'm 18, but unfortunately that's not in the book. And, you know, I might have to write a second book about that. But I would totally recommend it to anybody who really just wants to get rid of their Lyme disease. It's a grueling treatment, however, but I think it is absolutely worth it. And so I really hope that you guys will take a read at my memoir, and I really hope that you guys will download Tick Tracker and Tickmojis. And unfortunately, the Longhaul Tracker is just US based right now, but we are working really hard to get it global. And yeah, that is more or less my story. I really hope that I can see all of you guys here at the UK in June. And I think we are doing questions right now.
Just coming back, Olivia. I think my camera's coming on. Should be back with you. If you, when you finish, if you just stop sharing your PowerPoint, that would be great, and I'll come back in. Oh yeah, I'm here. That was amazing, really incredible to listen to. I mean, you're so young when you started this journey. Well, I don't know quite what to say in awe of you, because I know one of your first sentences completely related to my experience as an adult. So my experience was of a very senior nurse who became ill, and when you're already part of the club, you know, the health system, and then you feel it lets you down because nobody knows what's wrong with you, exactly the same. I completely related to the sentence that you said, that you felt betrayed by the healthcare system, and so did I, and found that very, very difficult indeed. And I know many people feel that. So we've got, have a look. If anybody has any questions for Olivia, just type them in the chat box, but we have a few that we prepared. So if you're happy to go with those, yeah. I think the most obvious thing to ask you is, what tips would you give to, like, you're about to graduate high school, what tips would you give to anybody trying to get through high school with Lyme disease or tick-borne illnesses?
Yeah, so the main reason why I was able to stay out of my bed and not be bedridden and, you know, not have the physical capability or mental capability to go to school was because I was so driven to be normal like my friends. I was so driven to, you know, have recess and go hang out with my friends and just be a normal kid. And so I really strived to make sure that I was, you know, able to go to school every day. And so I feel like if you really enjoy school and you enjoy learning and you enjoy being with your friends, definitely use that as a huge motivator to, you know, continue going, even when you don't feel well, because then you won't be able to, you know, miss out on those things. And I believe that, you know, if you are on the path towards college, like I am, just think about that. Just, you know, think about your future, because what if the cure is right around the corner, but you decided, you know what? I would rather stay in bed today. And I mean, obviously, if you are not physically well enough to go to school, then of course stay in bed. But if you think you have the choice to, you know, decide whether to go to school today or not, I would definitely recommend always choosing yes, go to school.
Sorry.
Really don't want to miss out on your childhood. And, you know, if you get worse or if there's a cure around the corner, you might look back and say, man, you know, I really wish I spent more time doing this, or I really wish I spent more time with my friends. And so a big motivator for me, again, was, you know, learning, being in school, seeing my teachers. And so that's what really got me through. And now I am going off to college. I recently got accepted to UCLA, and they have some incredible Lyme disease scientists there. So I will be going there and working with them.
That's really, sorry. I swallowed awkwardly. Now I can't stop coughing. I'll just have a quick drink. Sorry.
Are you all right?
You know, sometimes when you just swallow, but it doesn't happen. It just happened that, gosh, made me cough. So hope I can get over that. So one of the questions I would like to ask you is, I'll go and get sweet in a minute when you're answering this question. Do you feel that having Lyme disease as a child is different from having it as an adult?
I do feel like it is different. And I mean, obviously, I am not really an adult, so I can't attest to what it feels like. But I feel like having Lyme disease as a child is so much worse because you're at such a fundamental stage of your life. And Lyme disease, you know, it can make you stay in bed for weeks on end, and then you really miss those fundamental opportunities to, you know, grow as a person and, you know, create relationships and to understand, you know, how to talk to others, how to make friends, how to socialize. And it's also learning wise, it's very hard since you're learning your times tables, you're learning division, addition, you're learning all of these insanely important skills that, you know, I did Algebra 1 freshman year and I was thinking, man, I don't know how to do this. Oh, that was because I was sick that day and I missed it. And so I feel like it can really set you back both in school and just, you know, having friends and being in relationships and really, you know, communicating with one another. And I feel like when you're an adult, or I guess I assume when you're an adult, you've already gone through that stage and you know how to make relationships, you know how to maintain those relationships and friendships with communication, And so if you are feeling sick, you also know how to talk about it as well. When I was younger and super sick, and when I started losing my vision, I didn't know that they were called blackouts. So I would just say, the curtains are coming up, everything's going black. And I feel like if I were older, I would understand more what to say. And I feel like I would also be very more proactive about my health at the doctor's office. And I feel like the doctors would have actually taken me more seriously. They would not ask an adult, man, does your mom love you as much as your siblings? They would ask a kid that. And so I feel like as an adult, there is more, you have more respect in the doctor's office. And I feel like you also have, necessary skills to, maintain your job, maintain your work, maintain your, again, friendships, your life, your relationships. And so I feel like as a kid, when those are very fundamental, it's very hard having something like a tick-borne illness that you have to constantly keep worrying about, or you have to constantly keep on missing things for.
I think you make a good point there, because when I was very, still got a croaky voice, sorry. When I was very ill at first, I found it hard as an adult and as a senior nurse to explain how I felt. So if I'd have been the age you were, I think that would have been pretty impossible. And that was one of the things I used to continuously say, that I can't, I can't describe this feeling. It's, I couldn't put any words to it. And yet I had all that knowledge, and my background was in children's nursing as well. So I could really relate to children being ill. And yet there was me as an adult with all this knowledge who couldn't put her finger on. Everything seemed to change every day, which I'm sure you'll recognize, one symptom, then another one. And it, I found it very distressing. So I can only imagine what it must be like for a child. What do you think your best achievement is since you started along this road?
Oh gosh. I think my best achievement was recently, actually, I did a LivLyme summit. I have so many achievements that I'm very proud of, but I think that this one really stands out, especially in regards to COVID happening. I did my LivLyme summit this year, and this was, I believe, in early March, and it was absolutely incredible. At first, freshman year, we did it in person, and then, COVID hit and we did it online. And not only did more people attend online, but more people from different countries and more scientists were able to attend. And not only that, we didn't have to, spend a ton of money to, get a venue to house all these scientists. And so I feel like it was one of the most effective and cost effective ways to really bring everybody together. And so the LivLyme Summit, we bring Lyme disease scientists and tick-borne illness scientists and doctors from around the world onto this one Zoom, and they all talk. We all give them, about a half an hour to 45 minutes, or maybe even an hour to talk and really describe their findings to us. Since I feel like not only is it important to, connect scientists together, but it's also important to show these scientists and their work to the people who are waiting for them to find cures or waiting for them to find treatments. And not only does it, give them hope, but it allows for further connections and, trust to be built in between those, the scientists and the patients and the people. And so we had over 1,600 participants from over 37 different countries, from Australia to Brazil to even Ukraine. We had all of those people there, being there simply for tick-borne illnesses. And it was really incredible to see how many people from different countries are very invested in this. And I would love to have you guys come and, talk at our next summit, if that is something that you guys would like to do. And on top of that, all the summit videos from our previous summits are on the LivLyme website. And so if there's anybody here who, oh, I really like Dr. Ozcan, or, oh, I want to see Dr. Horowitz present, all of those videos are there on the LivLyme website. So I would definitely take a look there, and you can see any scientists that we've had.
Well, actually, we've found the same. So when so our big awareness campaign, obviously we used to go and talk and in-person events, and then all of a sudden COVID hit. Same as you, we found Zoom, and we found we could talk to people all over the world just like you. So we did exactly the same, and sort of various doctors have spoken with us on our website in seminars. And so that was something good that came out of COVID, wasn't it? That we could all engage when we wouldn't have thought about doing that before, would we?
Mhm.
So that that's really it's really a positive, and we're still doing it because you and I are talking now. Just a quick question about your tick tracker. Do you have anybody in the UK who collaborates with that?
Yes, I believe so. Besides, citizen scientists who track and report daily in the UK, I believe that we have some other scientists, and we have some other institutions, especially that help work with us, and we, have their tick data, and they are able to use all of the other data around the world for their studies and for their own research. I'm trying to remember their name right now, but yes, I do.
The only reason I mentioned it is because we've got at Glasgow University at the Brennan Labs. I don't know if they've connected with you, but I can certainly put them in touch with you if you want. They're doing a big project called What Makes Viruses Tick, and they're doing something very similar. So I thought that they might be a good people to collaborate with you. So I know the guys at What Makes Viruses Tick, so I'll send this presentation to them.
Yeah, that would be great. And I believe that the people that we work with in the UK is the Global Vector Hub is who we work with.
Yeah, okay. There's some questions in the chat box now, so I'll go there. Where are they? Let me open them all up. Oh, one question says, where is it? Oh, can you talk about your summits?
Yes, I already talked about the summits. I don't know if they wanted anything specifically, but more or less it happens every year, and you can go on to LivLyme to register. It is completely free, and it is all day. So if you don't have to obviously stay for the entire day, but if there's any scientists that you really want to go see, we always have a little list of when people are presenting. So I would definitely take a look at it, and I believe that we will be getting for 2024, actually, the 2024 summit list out shortly. We are still adding scientists and people on to the speakers list.
Okay. And we would definitely, going back to your previous, what you said, we'd definitely like to collaborate with you if you'd have us.
Absolutely.
What else have we got now? Given your experience of growing up with this disease, what would you say to parents of young children with Lyme disease? What would you have said to your mum if you had the knowledge you had now?
I would say, first off, probably along the lines of, it's not your fault. You are a great parent. You're an amazing parent. It's not your fault that they got sick. It's not your fault that, they just happened to be in the presence of a tick that, decided to bite them. And I would really just emphasize that, it happens to everybody. Ticks don't discriminate. They don't care what political party you're a part of. They don't care who you voted for. They don't care your nationality, race, ethnicity, background, gender identity, anything like that. They do not discriminate. And so it's really important to, instead of being like, oh my gosh, why me? What have I done wrong? Just take it as it is. Like, yep, this happened. We just have to really deal with it. I would also say, really, this is your time to fight for your kids' health. If there wasn't a time before, this is the time now, because this is so time sensitive. It's a very time sensitive illness. If you are aware about ticks and you see the tick bite your child, maybe you can get medication fast enough to where the illness doesn't become chronic. But unfortunately, it took 18 months and 51 doctors for me. And then on top of that, I had a doctor for a few years who wasn't that great of a doctor. And so I definitely had chronic Lyme disease, and there was no way to, avoid that. And that's just how my cards were dealt. So I would say absolutely fight for your child's health. Do not, take some doctor's recommendation of, oh, maybe they have a stomach bug, or, oh, maybe they're just making it up. I mean, I live in Colorado, and I don't know if you guys know, but a lot of people and doctors have told me, oh, well, you just have to drink more water. You're at high altitude, you're in Colorado. And, as a Colorado native, that was infuriating to hear. So I would definitely, talk about advocating and fighting for your child's health. And I would also say, if you're ever feeling doubtful that your child is being serious about their issues, it is more important to believe them and be wrong than to regret not believing them when it's too late, when they're so sick, when they're, having to drop out of school because they're so sick. And I mean, there are incredible parents everywhere. Out of those 900 applications that I read, each parent never gave up for their kid, whether it was moms, dads, grandmas, older siblings. They never gave up for their loved one to get, treatment and to really get their voices heard. And so if anything, I would, just don't stop, don't give up. And my mom did a great job in fighting for my health. I feel like at times, she and my dad were the only people who would actually, believe me. And I truly admire that. And I am so thankful that they did that. So if you can do that for your kid, I promise you it will be worth it in the end.
That sounds like really good advice. What do you think needs to happen globally to improve the situation for Lyme disease patients? That's a big one. That's a big question.
Oh gosh, I wish that there were a lot of things globally that would happen. But on top of that, I think the first thing that we can do, and the thing that I'm really trying to do, is to bring awareness. The more people that are aware, the more people who will pay attention, who will, bring this to Congress or Parliament or any type of government and, really advocate for it. So awareness is huge. If people are aware, then less people can get sick, then less people will not be protected when they go out into the woods. More people will be aware of the kind of treatments that they need, that they will advocate for. And more people will be aware of kind of the doctors who will say no. I feel like if we were more aware, we would have been 10 times more, stubborn about the diagnosis, and 10 times more, proactive about my health. So awareness is definitely key. Next, I would say, is absolutely government support, government funding. For those in the US, talk to congressmen, representatives. For those elsewhere, talk to your government officials, talk to anybody who might be able to pass a bill or a law to where tick-borne disease funding can, happen. And it's not just a small amount of funding, it's a huge amount of funding, something to where there's enough money for things to not only be discovered, but to actually be taken action upon, to be acted upon. And so those would be the two main things. And then, on top of that, besides the funding and besides the awareness, and hopefully those things work out, and then hopefully you got research, cures, treatments, everything like that. The biggest thing is insurance companies, because a lot of insurance companies do not cover Lyme disease medications, and it can be so expensive out of pocket. And that's why I started my nonprofit, is to help those kids and those families who can't afford all those medications. And so I feel like if we can get the insurance companies on board to, pay for the treatment, the future cures, the future preventative treatments, anything like that, that would be incredible. And then lastly, which I doubt this will ever happen, is if there was some magical way to get rid of ticks, that would be incredible. But that's kind of not really realistic, considering that they're already everywhere. But I don't know. I still keep my hopes up for that every now and then.
Yeah, you never know, do you? You never know. Yeah. Well, we don't have a medical insurance system in the UK, so it's a bit different. So we don't have to get the insurance companies on board because we have an NHS. But then we have the other problem, is that the NHS will only treat in a certain way, and they certainly won't acknowledge long-term treatment of Lyme disease. So it's the same problem in a different way, isn't it? If you know what I mean. And I agree that awareness is everything, because I know that when I got ill, I had been on a sort of forest holiday half-term break, and I had absolutely no idea, even back then, which is more than 20 years ago now, had absolutely no idea that it was, even then, was a heavily endemic for Lyme disease in the UK, that particular area of the UK. And as like I say, as a nurse and a medical professional, I'd never heard of Lyme disease. And I don't think, to be totally honest with you, I don't think I'd ever heard of a tick. So that says it all, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So awareness is definitely key, and we're all about, you in the States, all the organisations, us over here, we're just about to launch into May Awareness Month. So let's hope that we can make more and more people aware.
Mhm.
Going back to you personally, how on earth how on earth do you balance your school and charity work?
It's been interesting, to say the least. In middle school, actually I'll start in lower school, but in lower school, I told my classmates my diagnosis after I was gone for, weeks on end, and after they were, really confused about everything. And I told them, I was like, I have Lyme disease. And I got a really negative reaction, because little kids, they hear the word disease and they think, oh my goodness, like, you're absolutely contagious. You have the Black Plague. Like, no, we're not going anywhere near you. And so that wasn't all kids, but that was a lot of them. And so I had a very negative experience with that. And so when I was doing all this work in middle school before COVID, so this is when I was like the most active and, going across the country and, speaking from the West Coast to the East Coast and everywhere, I did not tell a lot of people, and I just didn't want to do it. Technically they already knew. So I really kept it private, and I kind of felt like it was my secret identity. I kind of felt like Spider-Man having to balance his superhero life with his school life. And, a lot of people would be like, oh my gosh, well, she's leaving again to go on vacation. When in reality, I was going to, the United States government to, speak on behalf of tick-borne illnesses. And so in middle school, I definitely kept it separate, and it was very, very separate. And I really just wanted to make sure that everything was on the down low on both sides. I wouldn't really talk about school a lot to all of my Lyme disease scientists and officials and everything like that. And I wouldn't talk about Lyme disease a lot to all of my teachers and classmates. And then I got to my high school, and it's an all-girls Catholic school, and it is very STEM based. And when I toured there, it is one of the most empowering schools, especially for young women, and I am so happy to be there. First off, everybody is super passionate about what they do, whether that's playing the cello or whether that's rowing or anything like that. Everybody has a passion, and they really voice themselves about it. They really tell people about it, and they're not afraid to hide their passion, which I really admired, especially considering that my original top high school choice didn't let me in because of Lyme disease and because of my nonprofit, since they said, oh, well, you'll be gone doing all this service work and doing all of this activism, and you won't be a good student if you're gone. So they didn't let me in, which was very confusing and really backwards in my opinion. But so I went to the school, and on the first day, I got up and I told my story. And to this day, I don't know why I did that. I just think I felt kind of the rush of like, oh my gosh, this is like such a supportive and empowering school. And so I told my story in front of the entire school. And instead of being, hit with criticism and with judgment, I was given nothing but support. And so during high school and during my high school career, everything has been very together. People always ask about my health. They ask what I'm doing. They ask for updates. And, even my teachers, they'll go to my summits, they'll go to my events. And I know that a lot of my teachers want to go to my book signing that I'm having very soon in May. And I'm really happy and thankful that, I went from a really bad experience with school and balancing the LivLyme Foundation to a really positive experience.
That definitely sounds really positive. It's so great to hear you talking like that. Somebody was just asking in the chat box, is this being recorded? Yes, it is. And everybody who's registered for the event will get a copy of the recording. Let's see if there's anything else in there. There are lots of people saying your work is amazing.
Thank you.
Ellen says, Olivia, your work is amazing, and we are really grateful for the work you do, and is so effective. We really appreciate it. So that's a nice comment.
That's really nice. It's a great start to my morning.
Yes, because it's first thing there, isn't it?
It is.
And obviously somebody else agrees with you about when you said about, you know, people disbelieve in you. So somebody's sent you some green hearts and said, so true, believe and risk being wrong instead of disbelief, particularly with parents who, you know, who stick with the children, as you've said, risk being wrong instead of disbelieving them. What's this one? How did you, oh, this is interesting. How did you find the right people to collaborate with you on creating your apps?
Well, funny enough, my great uncle used to do some advertising with some people out in Ohio, and they actually work with app development. And so he set up a meeting on behalf of us. And I think that those app developers kind of took it to, you know, be nice. They were like, oh, whatever. And when I got done, you know, proposing what I wanted to do, they were like, absolutely, like, let's totally do this. And they are absolutely incredible, and they have been doing all of this work, and we are like their charity for their company, which is incredible. And they have an amazing team, and really they can do anything. If I say, you know what, I want it to be looking like this, you know, they're like, boom, done. They're almost magical. And so I feel like that was definitely the start of having a great base to your app. And then on top of that, collaborating, more collaborations. Personally, I just reached out to people, and I think that it baffles people that that's kind of what I do. But everybody that I've, you know, spoken with, presented with, whether that's in the government or not, it could even be celebrities like Imagine Dragons, for example, or Jonah Hill, or really anybody like that. Just ask. It's one of the nicest things ever, and the worst that they can say is no. You're not really losing anything in the process. And so I've sent emails and I've done phone calls, and all I do is ask, and more often than not, they're more than happy to help you, and they're more than happy to collaborate with you. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who are waiting for people to ask them. And so if you really have the courage, just simply say, hey, you know, I would like to work with you, I would like to collaborate with you. You know, the worst thing that they can say is no. So that's really how I found the right people to collaborate with, was I just simply, you know, reached out to, for example, Microsoft. I asked. And so I would definitely recommend that if you're trying to collaborate with, or trying to find other people to work with or collaborate with.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. Is collaboration is everything, and networking is everything. And it, you know, it costs you nothing to reach out to people, does it? And from reaching out, you can make some really great collaborations. So I'm totally with you on that one. So going back to your book, how did you find the process of writing it, and what do you think the most rewarding part of writing a book is? I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So my mother's godmother, so my great godmother, she was absolutely amazing. She was like my fairy godmother. And unfortunately, she passed away due to cancer. But before she did that, she had written a bunch of books. And she said, Olivia, you know, you have a great story, and I want you to write this on paper. And so I did. I wrote it. And she was, you know, my motivation to, you know, put everything on paper and to do that. And during the writing process, I really had to, you know, relive everything, the good things and the bad things. And so I really had to, you know, think about my life and what I really wanted to include, since I didn't want to, this book is meant for, you know, middle schoolers, parents, really anybody who wants kind of a not super, super long read, but just a very real and down to earth read about what happens when you're a kid and you have a chronic illness. And so I really had to think about how I wanted the story to be told, and what aspects I really wanted to focus on, and what aspects I thought I can leave it to the speeches, or I could leave it to potentially the second book or anything like that. I could leave it to the social media. And so I took a lot of time writing the book. I even rewrote some parts like more than once. And I started it freshman year and now it's finally here. So it took me 3.5 years to write. So it's not an easy, quick process like I thought it would have been. But, I'm really happy to have written it. And I think that my favorite parts of the book, I love all of it, but my favorite part is the first part of the book, which I think is very important, especially to, I guess, who I am as a person and what I love to do. And then the next part that I love, the chapter is called Butterflies. So I'm not going to give you guys spoilers on what it is, but I definitely think that if you guys get the book, you guys should watch out for the first part and for the chapter called Butterflies. Those are my absolute favorites.
I was going to say, which is your favorite chapter? So we've got a big clue there, haven't we? So yeah, that'd be great to read. Are you looking forward to coming over to Europe for your book signings?
Oh my goodness, yes. I've been wanting to go to Europe for so long, and I'm so excited to be over there and to meet all these incredible people who I've only been able to, contact through emails or Zooms or, presentations like this. And so I can't wait to, give everybody a big hug in person and really just, get down to tackling tick-borne illnesses together.
I know that you're coming to London at some point, so do let us know when you're in London, won't you?
Yes, June 9th and 10th. I don't know where, but those are the days that I'll be there for the book signing.
Okay, so you'll be pushing out that information nearer the time. So everybody, keep your eyes and ears open for information. Yeah. We always, we've done quite a few of these seminars, whether they be doctors, we've had such a variety of people speaking, psychologists, researchers, scientists like yourself, I always finish, because we're coming up to the hour, I always try and finish on this question because it's so important for people out there, particularly if they don't have any funds or generally struggling. What would you say to people who feel there's no hope?
I would say that, at some point, I definitely agreed with that statement. And I feel like when you believe that there's no hope, it really affects you mentally. And it makes you super sad. It makes you really depressed and just bummed out about everything if you really say to yourself, oh, there's no hope. So even if in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way this is going to get better. There's no way I'm going to get better. If you just say it to yourself, actually say it, say, I'm going to get better. This is not forever. Everything's going to be okay eventually. If you actually say it, I feel like it helps a lot. And also, if you want proof, if you can't just, convince yourself based off of saying it, but if you want proof, go do your research, I would say. Go talk to doctors, go reach out to people, do your research, and it will really, truly help you. That's what I did. And I was able to start a nonprofit and do all these incredible things just because I did research to try and make myself feel better. So it really helps to really just look for other ways out instead of, saying, oh, there's no hope, or, oh, I must, wait for somebody else to fix my problems.
I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And wise beyond your years. Anyway, we're coming up to the hour and we've been so grateful for you to give up your time today and for your mum for organising and sharing information as we were trying to set it up. From Lyme Disease UK, we want to say a massive thank you to you today, and hopefully we'll keep in touch. And I'm sure everybody who's been listening has been truly inspired, because if you can do it, so can we. And we all have to keep that attitude, don't we? So yeah, so everybody will receive a recording, like I said. I normally save the chat box and I'll send it to you because there's people in there wanting to say thank you to you. So I'm going to bring the session to a close, but again, thank you massively from Lyme Disease UK and everybody listening. And yeah, thank you. I hope the snow goes away quickly in Colorado and spring comes. And yeah, we'll stay in touch. So I'm going to close the session for everybody, but as I say, I'll be in touch. And just a massive thank you to you and your mum. And thank you also to everybody for attending today. I'm sure everybody's learned something and gained something from your positivity, because it's so important, isn't it? So important. So yeah, to everybody, thanks for attending. Thank you to Olivia. Thank you to her mum, who I know is in the background. And I'll be in touch soon. Thanks.